Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Very excited to have you all here. For those of you who are new to this webinar series, we host it every month in partnership between the Tennessee Urban Forestry Council, as well as the University of Tennessee School of Natural Resources. And today we have Gina Sowders, Nursery Manager with the East Tennessee Nursery and Reforestation Unit Leader. That was a mouthful, with the Tennessee Division of Forestry. And then I also want to introduce Alyssa Merca. Alyssa is with the University of Tennessee School of Natural Resources and is helping out on the back end in Katie's absence today. And before we get started, I'm going to pass it over to Alyssa to go over CEUs and some housekeeping for the call.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, can everyone see this screen that I've got up here?
Yes, looks great.
Okay. So hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. As the presentation begins, if you have any questions for Gina while she is talking, you can go ahead and put them in the chat as you think of them, and then we will address them all together at the end of the presentation. This part here that is on the screen is important if you are claiming CEUs today for attendance, and it is about changing your name in Zoom so that it is your first and last name, your full name that you used on the registration form to sign up. And it's important because we match the registration report with this attendee report in order to make sure who attended and to give you credit for that CEU. So it's important that your name in Zoom is your full name. And here on the screen, it has instructions on how to change that if you need to. So like, if it shows up as Bob's iPhone, we don't know who that is and we won't be able to give you proper credit. So be sure that you get that changed to your full name before we get started. I think that is it, Kevin, if I want to.
Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. And one thing new on continuing education for this webinar and going forward is we're also approved for certified forester and certified urban and community forester from the Society of American Foresters. I guess they're called CFEs, not CEUs. And so for those, similarly, we'll want to be able to confirm your full name is listed. Yeah, thank you again for joining us. We'll hand this over to Gina, and we'll see you all again at the end for a Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I was very honored to be asked to speak to this and passionate to my heart about our Seed to Tree program with the Tennessee Division of Forestry. We are a small operation here as far as the number of employees, so always have patience with us on this. But I did want to introduce myself. My background started out as a private forester and a consulting forester with timber, and did about 30 years between state and private doing timber forestry. And then I got offered a position here running the nursery. I will tell all of you that are going into this forestry field or natural resources, my background is natural resource management, so I'm one of those majors. As be flexible, because although I thought I was going into something I was familiar with, nurseries are much different than forestry as far as I'm used to that adult tree that when I'm planting in the ground, not getting it to that point. So it's a bit of a learning curve, and there's not many programs that teach you it. It is a hands-on learning experience. Just go with the flow when you get to your first position. But starting here at the nursery, let's see if this thing will forward. There we go. We are located here in Delano, Tennessee, which is the southeast furthest county in the whole state. We're right there along North Carolina and Georgia, but we do have 5 other locations across the state where we have coolers that we stage at, where we can deliver seedlings at no additional cost to the public. It is 501 acres total here. We keep about 84 acres of it irrigated, and that's what we keep in rotating production, producing anywhere from 3 to 6 million seedlings. Right now, it's pushing closer to 2 million to 3 million because of the decline in pine sales. As I'm sure most of you are well aware, the pine industry has declined significantly due to the closures. A lot of pulpwood mills and ones that made paper products. It has definitely hurt the industry across the board. We're hoping for some return to some of that. Out here at the nursery, we do have 26 acres. It's not under control. It is archaeology, but we do keep a hay contract out there on that to keep those trees down. I did tell you that there's only 8 permanent staff here at the nursery. We do have a lifting crew that comes in with 8 additional people from January to March. And just this is kind of a background thing for those of you, because you are in school, you are working toward a career in this. I'm the youngest one here and I'm 53. There will be turnover coming here at the nursery. So keep us in mind when you're looking for positions. We're a little different than forestry directly, but if you're passionate about reforestation, keep us in consideration. It's a good place to work. We've got a fantastic crew and I have fantastic bosses too. And I'm not just saying that. It's really good environment. We do 2 types of irrigation here at the nursery. We do have a pivot system, which gives you that half moon effect look for the irrigation. That's normally where we do pines. And then for our hardwoods, as you see, we have fixed irrigation lines out there. We can do about 7 acres at a time with our pump system. So we have to keep them rotating. And the crew stays busy keeping water turning on and off due to, as you guys know, some species like more water than others. I did have one question that was asking, where do we source our seed from? This map here is roughly the guideline where I'm willing to accept seed from. We do contract out. I put out a wish list of what I hope to get for seed every year. It goes out for bid. Contractors bid on it, they win the bid, and then I cross my fingers that I get what I asked for. Now, I will tell you this, like the white oak, I have not received our full order in white oak in over 5 years. I will ask for about 2,800 to 3,500 pounds, and I'll receive 15 to 1,800. So I'm running close to half of what I'm asking for. This is why we do have the White Oak Initiative. They help us significantly with getting additional seed, but we also collect seed ourselves. And I think this video should work. This is actually now our state forester up in one of the buckets collecting white pine. This is a species that is very difficult to get your hands on in the private industry, and the trees they're collecting from have been identified as Christmas tree variety. I call them elite. If you see it online, it says elite, and that is because every Christmas tree operation has different standards, and I cannot meet all standards. Therefore, it is no longer called Christmas tree. It is elite. They are high quality. They tend to have a better form when they're young, more of that Christmas tree form. And that's what we're collecting seed from. So we try to keep that tree improvement activity going. Tennessee, the University of Tennessee does have a wonderful tree improvement program, and they are allies of us, and I will back them 100%. They are wonderful to work with. And we lost our tree improvement program here with the Tennessee Division of Forestry back in 2017 due to budgetary cuts. We lost 2 positions and a lot of knowledge. So now we're trying to keep that aspect of our seedlings going forward, that we are trying to keep our tree improvement forefront. Well, of course, it's going to play now. Now, we do collect other seeds here. Many of you are well aware of the American chestnut problems. We have a hybrid here. We have an orchard, and it is 85% American chestnut, 15% Chinese. Thanks to Dr. Hill and I'm sorry I'm forgetting his last name, out of Chattanooga with UT, provided me with a bag of already germinating chestnuts that were 97% pure. We have started another orchard off of the nursery. It's now on Chuck Swan State Forest. So we can get that next generation going. Part of that tree improvement, our genetics are improvement. And we're hoping in 15, 20 years, we will have 97% pure seedlings available for sale. That's moving forward. That's the direction we all want to go. We collect some of our seed ourselves. In this video, you're seeing a tree shaker taking a hold of a yellow poplar that is also genetically improved, a graft. And as you see, a lot of seed comes down. I may not have this production this year, and the main reason is you got to work with your environment. We had honeybees under these orchards, and I can double our production of seed just by having the bees there. Unfortunately, the beekeeper we had wasn't able to maintain his bees, and they died. And I am seeing a detriment this year. I'm now trying to get another group in here to please put more bees out here. They can be a big help to you, both in your fruit production of your trees, as well as when you are trying to collect seed. Now, I had mentioned about this white oak initiative. We work with the Tennessee Forestry Association. They are huge supporters of this program. We started this about 4 years ago, and we ended up with about 2,800 pounds of white oak seed. And at that time that year, we had the public soaking them, floating them, and removing the ones that float because they're not viable. And they sent us the ones that were good seed. The problem is if you can't sow that seed almost immediately, it starts to sprout real quickly. And so it gums up our machines if we can't get it sown immediately. So we are now asking that the public that does participate, because we do this every year, October 15th through November 15th, we take donations of good seed. We ask that you don't float it so that we can float it here just before we start to sow. But we've had that successful program. No year has been less than 1,300 pounds donated. And what is amazing is the quality that the public is giving us, because we're not asking for a yard tree. I don't know the genetics of the yard tree. I don't know where it came from. I'm looking for ones that are collected from in the wooded areas and things like that. Although you do see a picture here of a campus, I did know where those trees came from at the Vanderbilt University. But we get families involved, we get employees involved. And as many of you know, the reason, not the driving force, but white oak is a huge habitat for a variety of species and insects. It is a good natural part of our heritage here in Tennessee for our oak and hickory habitats. Not only that, but our white oak industry supports our whiskey and bourbon. So the wood is extremely valuable, and we're hoping to continue to be able to meet that market. Other seed we collect, I'm curious if I can get somebody before I say it to tell me what this is, maybe in a note. But this is pawpaw. And you're kind of seeing here the process we have to go through from almost rotten fruit to getting that mush out of there, and then peeling each of the skins off the outside before we can process it the rest of the way. So it's a lot of hands-on. I will tell you, this was a collection I did, and yes, there were maggots in there, but this is a pawpaw. And so, like I say, yes, there were maggots in there. So enjoy your job. You'll never know what you're going to get into. Then once we get some of these seeds in, we've got to clean out all that debris. There's a lot of times there's twigs, leaves, all that stuff. We'll use equipment like this. That bucket in the bottom is the clean stuff. Well, relatively clean. And all the debris that comes in. So that is part of the reason why I really enjoy clean seed when it comes in. Once we get it clean, we're now going to try to sort it by size. This is a seed sorter that you see operating, poured in one end. You'll see it go through the different sizes as they drop through. They're meeting a certain size criteria. We call it the 10, 12, the 14, 10s, 12s, 14s, and then out the end shoots size 16 and up. That way, when we plant them, they're being planted with a group of trees that are anticipated to grow at the same rate they do. If they're large, they have that extra food source. The theory is that they will have an opportunity to grow higher and bigger than the ones around it. Rather than competing with each other, we put them with like groups, and we will plant each one of those as a separate lot. So I may have 5, 6, 7 different lots of white oak that's coming in because I'm separating out what we purchased by size and then also what was donated by size. And those are all kept separate so we can keep records on how our germination rates are going, because it will vary. These other species, like this is pines. This is loblolly that you're looking at in front of you right now. We have to stratify and scarify some of these species. For these, we actually add a little bit of an acid, soak it in some water too. And then we have to spread it across the floor and get it dry again before we can put it through the machinery. So depending on the species is what we have to do. Sometimes we have to put it through a emulserator to get the pulp off, break the pulp up, get those off so that we can get these species to germinate. Some species have an extremely low germination rate. Like I think it's elderberry is like a 10, 20% of the seed that you're going to get to actually germinate. One process we do, now there's talking in this, but it's somewhat hard to understand. This is when we put out methyl bromide, which is a chemical that has been under debate to ban. But as of yet, it hasn't been able to be banned because there's nothing that controls the fungus, the nematodes, and the weeds like this does. Let's see if we can't show it a little bit. And you see that they're going to lay out. Yeah, I'll let them talk. Apologize. That goes on for quite a while, but what they're doing is they're laying down the plastic, tying down the edges, and then they pump a gas into it, and that's that methyl bromide. It helps a lot with the weeds, particularly when there's only a few of us here. I will tell you this, just for those of you who are on the inside of this, are probably well aware. It does not control morning glory. Morning glory is my nemesis. We have had to design a rake that can go down the beds and go between the trees and lift up because it gets like a thick mat and it tries to strangle the trees. So although it's a great method for controlling many of the weeds and problems that we have in the soil, it doesn't help everything. Yep. Of course, then we move on to making beds. Between each of our watering posts, there'll be 9 beds. I'm lucky here. This crew's been here so long, they can eyeball this and do it. Otherwise, we'd have to, get out the compasses and do a little better work. But these guys have done it so long, they can do it with their eyes closed, I think. but they start building the beds up. We've turned those beds repeatedly before we get to this point. After that fumigation, we've got to turn and turn and turn that soil to release that gas so it doesn't affect the seedlings. Then we get into the sowing. We have two different types of sowers here. One we call the Nutty Buddy. It was designed in-house because the sowing machines that they have for sowing seed that is larger, such as your walnuts, your pecans, your oaks and hickories, the bins that come with them hold like a 50-pound bag. We're dealing with way too much to do that. And as you can see with this one, it's got a very large storage area so that when we hit the field, we don't have to repeatedly come back to the storage building to get more seed. It's ready to handle it. But that was designed in-house. Once we sow it, if it's a large enough seed, you'll see we do a test plot and we will count how many seed are being dropped per linear foot. Then we pack it all down once we're done. We did just recently change from 4-row to 5-row, and it's a 20% increase in our production with less fumigation needed. We're trying to reduce that cost because that is $3,500 to $3,800 an acre to do that fumigation. So trying to reduce that cost, use our materials more effectively. This has worked out. The kids in school love this part, and I'm talking the elementary age. Elmer's glue. Elmer's, but it is the same type glue that we used to all stick in our hands and peel off. We use that on top of the soil. We wet the soil first, and then we go back and we spray a thick layer of that glue over the top of the sown seed areas with the. But with that glue, it does lock that soil in so that we can still get moisture in there, but it's locking the soil in so it doesn't erode. We lose the edge of the beds typically until the root system takes over. And this helps prevent that. It also helps with some of the naturally spreading, thanks to birds and otherwise, of seed that we don't want, all those weeds. It's good that way. All right. Of course, then we go into the irrigation monitoring. If it hasn't rained in 3 days, we've got to get out here and water, and that includes over the weekends. We typically will only go 2 days here, but 3 days is the max that we can leave any of these fields. Otherwise, they're getting watered every day that we're here. We do, I have been asked if our trees were organic. Yes, that was the wording they used. And I understand they're referring to chemicals. At this level of production we're doing, there will be chemical applications to the soil and to the seedlings in order to produce this volume of trees. I don't know another effective way to do it. We do go in and do some maintenance on the seedlings. I did mention, particularly in the pines, we will do an early top trim on those. There's a debate on this, but we do not go into the woody material, only the fresh growth to kind of level everybody off to the same playing field. That way you don't have larger trees next to smaller trees, which I had mentioned in the sizing of the seed. That's one of the consideration. But when it comes to pines, can't really size that seed, but we can level off the top early on in the season, like April, May, we'll do a top trim. Now we will be going back in later to do lateral prunings. And that helps when we break those, go down the line and we cut each side of those seedlings, and not to lift them, but just to cut those roots. It helps stimulate more root growth. So the rest of the season, we continue to get those strong lateral roots going for these seedlings. And we have Weeding Wednesday, which is everybody's favorite activity. But anyway, we do, just like in your local gardens, we're doing the same weeding here. We do an inventory. It's part of the reason why we sold trees starting in September, although we may back this up a little bit, is to try to get the trees large enough that we can know whether or not by January they are of a size that is appropriate to sell. As you can see here, I'm not sure what species we're doing here, but they're a little small. So we're hoping that in the 2 months they have left to growth, that I will get a higher production rate, more germination out of it. But we go out, we use your statistics classes that you guys are taking, and we take plots. We try to meet a certain level of standard across the board before we can accept it. That means constantly going back to the field and possibly throwing in some additional plots. As you guys know, with those statistics, if I end up with a bunch of 10s all working in there, my statistics are going to work out great. But if I'm ending up with 2, 8, 10, 20 numbers all over the board, I'm going to need a lot more plots to make the statistics work out, to give me a good idea of the inventory. So whether we like statistics or not, they are extremely useful. When it comes to lifting, we do hire a crew. Our crew is running the equipment. They are doing the lifting. This is lifting pines. It is digging underneath these pines and then shaking that dirt off, because we want to leave. These are all bare root seedlings, 1 year old. Actually, they're less than a year old. They're about 9 months old. We want to shake as much of that dirt off as possible and keep it in the field. They then put these into buckets for later processing. Each of those buckets will hold 250 loblolly pines. And what's nice is they will lift as much as possible on a decent day. A lot of what we do is dependent on Mother Nature. If it's rained too much, mud will cause that mud to stick to the roots. And if we go to jerk the trees out of the ground or shake them out, it rips those lateral roots off. So it's not a good time. If the ground is frozen and we try to lift them, we're ripping those roots off. So we have to wait for the temperatures to be appropriate before we can actually lift out in the field. So on days when we know the next day is going to be a freeze day, we will lift hot and heavy, put them all in the cooler. We store them in the cooler between 36 to 42 degrees. Once they go in there, that'll slow them down. And then the next morning when we come in, we can come in and bag these appropriately. When they do go in to be bagged, some hardwoods are bagged out in the field. They come in the bags, and then we add a slurry, which is like a water gel, very thin water gel onto the root system that'll stick to it. So the bags aren't dripping water typically. And that way they're still staying moist, though, till the public can get them in the ground. When it comes to the bags, this was last year's actual seedlings. I just grabbed random bags and opened them. This is a 4-foot long ruler, and it can show you that each bag may vary, particularly in the hardwood, on what size you're getting. In pines, those bags are 500 in that bag. So it just lets you know, we've had people show up with U-Hauls ready to get their 1,000 trees, not realizing I was going to hand them 10 bags or 2 bags of loblolly, not realizing that these are bare root seedlings, much easier to dig the holes and plant, and can be planted at a much higher speed. Other species we're growing out in the field, kind of keeping track of them and their heights. Hickories become extremely important. When they go in the cooler, I did say that these go in between 36 and 42 degrees. They go onto racks. The main thing is that we don't want these trees bagged on top of each other real thick, because they've got to be able to breathe and not be crushed. These are living things. And when they go into these coolers, they need to be treated like they're living things. It means not too high a temperature, not too low. As you see the water on the floor there, we keep some water there to keep those bags as moist as possible before they are distributed. The most fragile time of a seedling is during its time that it is picked up and transported to its final destination in planting. And that is because we will have somebody show up in February, which seems like a great time to plant because you want them dormant. You don't want them too warm where they're coming out of dormancy. Great time. But if you picked a day that was 80 degrees and you're in a black pickup truck and didn't bring a tarp to cover it, and you're taking them 2 hours from here, you're going to have significant impact into the survivability of those seedlings. You're going to have mortality rates that are much higher. And it's because you've got to come prepared for covering those seedlings. If it's going to be a warm day, get here early in the day and get them to where they need to go, where they can be kept cool, out of direct sunlight, out of the wind. You don't want, like I say, living things, we don't want them to dry out. Then, of course, we have community events where we help people with planting. These dibble bars, which is what you're seeing kind of here that they're showing here, they are great for pines. I will tell you, they are not real great for hardwoods. Anybody have access to an auger? Highly recommended. Otherwise, it's a lot of hand digging to get those roots spread out. Number one thing with planting your seedlings is keep that tap root pointed straight down. You don't want it to bend and become an L shape or a J shape where it's bent over in the bottom of the hole. You've set that tree up to start having the roots circle around it. And when it's a mature tree, it's still going to have a lot of those roots circling around. Wind comes, knocks it right over, or they strangle themselves and never make it to maturity. So big thing is I always plant just a little bit deep, gently after you've gently packed in the soil, gently lift up on the center of it to get it to the right line on the ground, pack it in. But that way you straighten out any of the roots that are trying to go the wrong direction. I typically don't like to do a lot of soil prep for these ones that are not going to be yard trees. And I always tell parents it this way. It's kind of like having a teenager that needs to leave the nest. If the nest is too nice, they're not going to want to go. Same thing with these roots. If you make it so nice in this one little area that the roots just won't leave out to go search out nutrients and water, it sets it up not to get established well in the beginning. So I try not to baby them too much, loosen the soil up, make sure it's staying watered. But unless you're in really harsh conditions where the topsoil's been stripped, I try not to enhance too much. We are having projects going on at the nursery. We have a little bit of a water issue. That truck is currently parked on an 8-foot wide, a 9-foot wide crossing, and that water is about 20 feet deep on each side of that 9-foot. Our tractor with equipment is 8 foot wide. It's not leaving a lot of leeway for error. So we have a hydrology project that hopefully is going to come in and help move some of this water along. It's typical issues you deal with at the nursery. It's feast or famine. You've either got too much water or not enough. Division of Forestry, we have staff, area foresters that can come out to your property, help with advisement as far as what right tree, right place. Big issues, particularly with power lines and property rights and things like that. And whatever the landowner's goal is, your goal may be for wildlife. It may be for, you want to do a native area for foraging, those type things. Those are things that we try to encourage people to speak with their area foresters, learn what's most appropriate for your property. Best thing, doesn't cost a thing. I did have a couple of questions that came up. I'm going to go to my last slide just to show you kind of this is what we're selling this year, kind of some prices, maybe almost impossible to read. I do apologize, but these order forms will be coming up on planttntrees.org starting September 3rd when everything goes up for sale. I had a question about, you had several trees that were planted in a 12-inch pot. When would be best to break them apart and transplant them? Again, that goes into dormancy. You want to make sure we're well into it, late December, early January at the earliest, have it done by mid-March. and get those broken apart while they're a dormant situation, and they can be transplanted to the ground or to other pots, but make sure they're dormant. That's the big thing. Another person asked about doing some riparian zone, rain garden type activities. We do sell species that work great for that, particularly for like erosion. I'm always recommending silky dogwood. It has a root system that's like a hair mat, wonderful for erosion. 9-bark is another one that does very well in those situations and helps stabilize the banks, while also providing pollinators, things like that. So that works out really well. Another question was native versus non-native. Here at this nursery, we only sell native species. That's it. And most are geared toward timber or wildlife. We had one non-native as of last year. I've stopped growing it, which was sawtooth oak. Very popular, but there is a debate on whether or not it is trying to naturalize. And rather than being part of the wrong end of a kudzu issue down the line, we just don't grow that anymore. So we stick with our native species. But we can help advise people when they call on programs that are involved. We have programs that are helping to sponsor seedlings. Suntory, which is part of Jim Beam, they are sponsoring 10,000 white oaks and hickories, part of a program. So if anybody has a forest management plan that has a component that is gearing to the management of those species, they will pay for your seedlings. Just go through your area forester to help get that plan. Promark, formerly known as Diodario, they're drumstick makers. They sponsor a lot of hickories and oaks, as long as they're part of a forest management plan. And for every 1,000 that a person orders of oak hickory, they can get 100 of a wildlife species. So if they want to do management with hard mass and soft mass, say for turkeys, they can have that chinkapin oak component for small acorns, as well as having persimmon for that soft mass. And they're doing that management. As long as that's in their management plan, we can help sponsor a lot of those seedlings. Tree Cities, they are allowed to get 200 seedlings free. And we encourage you in your community, if they don't have that program, to get involved with the urban councils to definitely enroll. I don't know. I think that was about it. I was going to leave some time here for any additional questions.
Thank you, Gina. And thanks everyone for sticking around. We had some technology gremlins in the lines today. Even on my end, I don't know what was in the air, but we made it. Thank you. There were a couple of questions in the chat. First one, can you tell us anything about the White Oak Initiative?
Yeah, the White Oak Initiative, we are involved in them. They are helping. They have bought the red mesh bags that we're using for seed collection. These red mesh bags, they hold between 40 and 50 pounds of acorns. Tennessee Forestry Association will help be distributing those within the next month. We ask people not to collect the first acorns that drop from a tree. Those trees may stop dropping in early October type time. We ask that you rake those away. Most of those are going to be aborted seed from the tree. They're not going to be viable. But from October 15th through November 15th, we are asking with the White Oak Initiative and with TFA to help us collect those acorns, because we are never going to meet demand for these seedlings. We're also encouraging people that if you know you have a good white oak, we want that genetics. We want that seed genetics. When we put it through the seed sorter, if I have enough seed that we're going to have extra, a lot of times I'll take that smallest size 10 seed and we donate it to a bear rescue. They use about 5-gallon bucket a day per bear. So it helps keep our genetics, in theory, a little bit better. We're promoting some of the larger seed than we are the very, very smallest. So we work with the White Oak Initiative to help promote that and get area foresters and landowners to understand the importance of white oak management.
On that
Ash
note,
trees.
oh yeah.
On that note,
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say on that note, someone said in the comments that in Nashville, the Metro Tree Advisory Committee collects white oak acorns on the Vanderbilt campus in years of heavy acorn production. It's pretty cool.
yep, been out there collecting with them. One of the pictures that was on there with nets rolled out, that was there. We also get bur oak when we're there. They have a couple of bur oaks that for some reason are phenomenal producers, and that's not always the way it is. But those two trees that they've got, I've gotten hundreds of pounds just off of those two trees from randomly picking up off the ground. With the ash trees, I see they've got a question there about ash. Because of the ash problem, emerald ash borer, we are not growing any ash trees. This area here, our ashes have been devastated. And until that situation rectifies itself, or we as humans find a way to help rectify that situation, we're not going to grow them. I don't want to promote any more insect disease issues till we get a handle on how to adjust to that problem. And you've got that plantain tree. Yeah, I guess that covers most of your questions.
Yeah, is there anything else, Alyssa, that was in the chat?
There are a couple that are looking for specific advice here. So
Okay.
suggestions for things to plant in shallow soil.
Oh, well, that's a new one. I thought I'd heard them all. The shallow soils, are you talking that it's rocks or topsoil issue? That's
We're not sure. Pam, if you want to clarify.
because like we
if
do
you're
sell
still
like
on.
Virginia pines. Virginia pines just like two pieces of sand and two rocks, and they're happy. But that may not be exactly your management desire. As a timber forester myself, it's not really my desire, but I understand they have their niche. Loblolly is also another one. It's not real particular. Nuttall oak is a species that is not particular about planting sites. It's not real picky. Surprisingly, bald cypress is one that I find an extremely easy species to get to grow. Not exactly on your highest, driest locations, but it doesn't have to have its feet wet. You'll have to baby it maybe the first year and make sure it's staying moist. But one of the easiest seedlings to plant because it's built like a carrot. So easy planting, love that. And an easy care maintenance. So I don't know if that really answers your soil depth because there's too many factors involved. I'm not sure.
Another question, do you have any tips for individuals to start seedlings?
Yeah, there are some. If you're looking at starting from seed, online is a book. Hold on, let me pull it out so I make sure I get the right one. And at this office, I call this my blue Bible. This sucker. It is huge.
Oh boy.
It will tell you everything about how to get a seed to go to a seedling. It is a wonderful free document, hard to get hard copies, but there is an electronic one free available online. Highly, highly recommend this sucker. As you'll have more information than you can ever deal with. But it is a free publication, highly recommended. It'll help you go through how you need to stratify, how you need to plant. It's very good and very well detailed. Other ideas is, I shouldn't even say this, but I will, is that many species you can do cuttings. Elderberry being a great one. People like to make their elderberry wine, their tinctures. I do it myself. But you can do a cutting off of it. Sometimes you can put it in a little bit of the root powder there, put it in the ground. A lot of times, just put them in the ground. They are extremely resilient and easy to propagate. And I think 9-bark is another one that likes to do that. So you can do cuttings off of them, and you can help propagate some of your own species that way also. And of course, if you want to do scions and grafting, that works too. If you want to keep the exact genetics, I get into grafting, particularly with the plums, the crab apples. Going from that seed doesn't always give you the same plant that you planted. So sometimes you may want to actually graft trees that way to get if you like the flavor of that apple tree, which we don't do apple trees, you're going to need to do scions and grafts to get that same quality of what you had, unless you don't mind a little alterations.
Okay, another question. Do y'all ever add topsoil or amendments at the nursery?
We don't add topsoil, but with this hydrology project, we are going to be cleaning out all our ditches. And so any of our topsoil that has gone to those ditches, we're going to pull them back into the beds. We do add a lot of nutrients, ammonium nitrate being a big one that we do to help enhance that soil. It's getting used a lot. We also do cover crops to help with the organic material and stuff in it. And we're using, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the grass species. I apologize, I'm pulling a blank. But we do plant some grasses out there that we can then turn under and don't cause us a weed problem. They help prevent other weeds from coming in, and they also help to enhance the soils. So we're not bringing in any outside soil other than what's on site.
One more question or request. Can you summarize what you went over in the presentation about pawpaws? If you could kind of summarize that. That was kind of when we had some technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, we had some technical.
Yeah.
Pawpaws, we like to get that fruit when it is overripe, squishy. That's when we know the seed is mature. If we get it when it's just getting to the point where we enjoy it, it may need to go just slightly further in order to be a seed source. And then we bust those open, sometimes with maggots. But anyway, and then we get the seed out. Now the seed will have like a growth membrane over the top of it. We have to peel those off of each seed and then let them dry just a little bit. A lot of times I will keep them just moist enough with a little bit of moss. Moss works great with them. Store them in the refrigerator or in a coolant for at least a couple of months, but you do want to get them in the ground in the fall. Those are not a spring sow. Those need to go in the ground in the fall. They need time. Sometimes if you think you've had a failed planting, save it another year. It may be a 2-year crop on that one, which varies just depending on Mother Nature. Oh, and very low germination rate on those. I'm talking 30 to 40% germination.
We got a question about red buds. I'm not sure what about red buds. You just want to talk about red buds?
They aren't on the list, and there's a reason. For some reason, they don't like me.
Okay.
They haven't been on the list for about 3 years. I plant them every year, and I keep going back to that blue book to figure out where I'm messing up, but it's part of the game. I will say this. I went to the nursery conference this year for the whole Southeast, and I was not the only one. About 9 out of 10 of us in the group all had failures when it came to it. They are hard to get to stratify. You got to get that niche in that hard shell in order to get it to bust open. And we've tried doing take a pound of seed, boil water, turn it off, add the seed for like an hour, pull it out. That was our test plot this year. It failed the same way our regular plots did. So scientific method at its best. I wish I had a better answer. If somebody else has a good answer, I am open to advice.
Another question, are any new seedling beds being developed?
We're finishing this hydrology project. And to be honest, I am hoping to double production after that. We have enough room in our beds right now that we could double production without creating more compartments out here. We have room to make more compartments, but there are areas out here at the nursery that do not have the appropriate soil. They're chert. They're just poor, rocky, unusable clay. I like this, having a little more sand and loam involved in our soils. But yeah, we could expand, but don't have the intent to right now. We've got room to improve where we are.
All right, interesting question. Do any of your seeds need to pass through animals?
No, we haven't had to deal with that yet. They don't have us brewing that fancy coffee yet. But no, we don't have to have anything like that. I do understand that sometimes the pawpaw does do better though, if you can find it in scat. Haven't dug through that yet. So I'm not testing that theory at this time. Now, we'll say our seedlings, just so you know, the smallest volume you can buy is 25 per species. That's what separates us from private industry. We don't want to be in competition with private industry. We want to provide the niche to reforestation, larger type activities, more intense management than maybe the typical nursery provides. So that's how we stay out of competition with them.
What do you use to control anthracnose pathogens?
Luckily, at the size we're dealing with them, we're not having that fungal growth and the black soot type underneath the dogwoods. We don't see it at this stage of life. And if we start seeing too much moisture, a lot of it will just control with the amount of water that we're putting on them. We do always putting out fungicides though, because it's a nursery. They're close, dense planted. So we'll control with water where we can, being the best way to do it. If not, we'll add fungicides. And a lot of these fields get fungicides at least once a week.
All right, I think we are all caught up on the questions that are in the chat. We do have time for maybe one or two more if anyone has them.
And if anybody is interested, feel free to come by the nursery. I'll take you around on a nursery tour. We like showing off what we do here. And if you come in like January, February, you'll probably get to see the lifting and freeze your tail off.
Gina, based on the photos and videos you shared, I mean, it looks like a beautiful place. And I was like, okay, I want to get out there and see this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing the process behind these seedlings, seeing them on the urban and community side at the Arbor Day ceremonies across the state. Now understanding kind of what goes into the who and the how behind them is really cool. And it's also really clear that you love what you do and the people you work with, and you show up to work every day with that amazing Smokey the Bear painting right behind you, which we couldn't leave without mentioning. So
my daughter and I painted that.
Oh, amazing. I'm going to talk to you later about a reproduction. But yeah, thank you again, everyone, for joining.